I don't think that we expected Razer to refresh the Deathadder this year with the brand new Deathadder V3 Pro. And don't get me wrong, this is a really good mouse, and the Deathadder 100% deserved it, being one of the top selling gaming mice of all time, especially, I'm sure, more than the past decade. Razer owes a lot of their success to the Deathadder gaming mouse being one of the top sold. With that being said, the Deathadder was also a little bit of a polarizing shape, even though I never really had particularly a problem with the Deathadder, but I guess now that it's been a little bit more pointed out and corrected with the newer version, I do see a little bit of an issue with these comfort grooves, I'll call them, right here at the front of the mouse. This is actually my old Deathadder Chroma. This is one of my, actually I think this is my first gaming mouse that I ever bought, actually back in 2016. I did have a really good time using this mouse back in the day. Did not have any real issues with the mouse, other than the fact that I think I swapped to something wireless after this. This did me extremely well for the 2 years that I used it before I inevitably replaced it, and I'm glad to see that the Deathadder series is still getting some love. But before I actually put this away, we can see that they have made this a lot more of a safer shape as opposed to this one. It's a little bit smaller in terms of like overall dimensions. Like, this is definitely a wider mouse when you consider the fact that these flares are quite huge, and then you also have this drastic dip here in the middle of the mouse. But this just feels like a lot more people would be able to use it a lot easier, and I'm glad they actually did that with this mouse, made it a lot safer and more accessible for people. As you guys can probably tell, I did decide to go with the grips on this mouse that they include inside of the box, and yeah, these grips are pretty nice. They are extremely grippy. I do find that the coating on this and the Viper V2 is very nice, but I have noticed that, especially since it's summertime and in my office it's been really hot, my hands do tend to sweat quite a bit. So this is definitely extremely helpful, having these little grips on the mouse. But I think I'm gonna peel them off anyways. A, it doesn't really look that great for the review, and B, I'm not really a mouse grip kind of guy, so yeah, I mean, I think it just kind of looks ugly. So we're gonna go ahead and ditch the mouse grips for the rest of the video, but just know that they are actually really good. All right, that looks way better than it did before. But yeah, basically, as far as some changes with this mouse, it's more or less exactly the same as the Viper V2, meaning that you have the power and DPI button all in one button on the bottom of the mouse. I would have liked to seen a DPI button up top. That would have been great because you can map that to something in game, very similar to how Vaxi did with the new Vaxi XE and some other gaming mice as well, like the Zeiss Rail. Also, you do have USB Type-C at the front and a really nice, super smooth scroll wheel that does click really well also. So really easy to spam this. I do think that this is probably one of the best scroll wheels on any gaming mouse, in my opinion, from my testing. Now, as far as the clicks, these are Razer's new Gen 3 clicks that they did also feature on the Viper V2 Pro, and these things are incredibly nice to use. Super tactile, super spammy, definitely competes with the Logitech G Pro Wireless in my opinion, and they also do features really nice side clicks as well. These are probably some of the best side clicks I've seen on a recent mouse, and side buttons that I think is something that Razer does some of the best of in the business. They definitely do make sure that their side buttons are nice and clicky and tactile. The PTFE feet are also relatively smooth as well, so I don't really think that there's any real need to want to replace these, but I'm sure that eventually Pulsar will come out with some Super Glide glass skates available for this mouse, so look out for those in the future. But I really don't have any issues with the stock PTFE skates in the slightest. Now, in terms of some things about this mouse that actually makes it a huge difference over previous Razer Vipers, this mouse does weigh in at only 63 grams, which is incredible for a Razer Deathadder product. This is the lightest Deathadder I think that we've ever seen, with the exception of maybe the Deathadder Mini was, that one might have been the same or lighter, I want to say. I don't remember. I haven't touched that mouse in a really long time. But honestly, now that Razer has a lot more competition from other wireless mouse makers, I think that it is time that they go ahead and bring back the Razer Deathadder V3 and put it in a mini shell also. And I mean, I'm surprised they haven't done a Viper Mini Ultimate by now, or Viper Mini V2 wireless, whatever. So, I mean, this is probably a pipe dream to get a mini mini version of this mouse at this point and also have it be wireless. So we can leave that one to the hopes and dreams category, but I don't think that me and Techni are going to win this battle to actually get a Razer DeathAdder V3 Mini, unfortunately. But at least we got the Pulsar X-Lite Mini and X-Lite V2. But real quick, I actually want to talk about how the DeathAdder V3 feels in the hand, especially compared to some other ergonomic gaming mice. So the glorious Model D, that one out of the four that I decided to test against is probably the least aggressive when it comes to the feeling of the hump in your hand. It's definitely more forward and then slanted on the right side of the mouse a lot more steeply than the likes of the Pulsar as well as the DeathAdder and Xtrfy mice. But moving on past the Model D, we have the Pulsar X-Lite V2, which is going to be slightly more aggressive and a little bit more support underneath your knuckle. Then we will have both of the Razer DeathAdders being very close in terms of how they feel, with the ergonomic curve on the right side of the mouse being a little bit more aggressive and having that hump be more toward the middle of the mouse. And all of these mice, as far as palm support this far, you don't really have a ton of it, but you do feel it a little bit, especially underneath your knuckle and then rolling into your palm. But then you get to the Xtrfy M4 wireless. The M4 wireless definitely gives you that ergo feel with a ton of palm support. So if you're looking for a mouse out of this set that's going to give you the most palm support, the DeathAdder V3 wireless is not going to be that, but the Xtrfy M4 will definitely be giving you the most palm support. When it comes to the lightest mouse on the list, that's going to go to the Pulsar X-Lite V2 and the X-Lite V2 Mini if you're looking for a smaller one. Now, as far as the gaming performance of this mouse, it is very good. It's using Razer's new 30K optical sensor that's based on the 3395 from Pixar. And don't get me wrong, it's really good. I have zero issues with the sensor. And this is actually one of the only reasons why I can kind of justify the fact that the price point for this mouse is $150 is because this is the only mouse of the bunch that we took a look at that actually has the capability of going up to a 4,000 hertz polling rate over wireless connection. You do have to buy the $30 Razer wireless dongle, or you can get the bundle for $165 directly from Razer, which at the time is sold out, but I'm sure it's going to be back in stock pretty soon. I think that that is a great option to do, especially if you're playing on something like a 360 hertz monitor or something that has a crazy high refresh rate. That's where you're going to see the most benefit out of a 4,000 hertz polling rate, as far as, one-to-one gameplay, having better tracking for your mouse. I didn't really deem it as 100% necessary if you're not playing at the pro level. And if you are playing at the pro level, what is the chances of you using an ergo mouse instead of a smaller, lighter ambi mouse? So that's going to be more so of a question for you to ask yourself to see if spending that extra money is really going to be worth it. Now, in my opinion, I don't really know if I would spend $150 on this mouse, especially when the Pulsar X-Lite is almost half the cost at $80, and it feels very, very similar in the hand. Now, the X-Lite doesn't really feel like as long of a mouse. You definitely do have slightly more length to it, so it does feel your hand just a little bit better. But honestly speaking, the things that you're gaining by going with the DeathAdder V3 Pro is going to be the quality of the clicks, and also the clicks moving from mechanical to optical. The side buttons definitely do feel much better, and the ability to use that 4,000 hertz polling rate, as well as not having any holes inside of the body. Where the X-Lite, this is a lighter mouse, and it does feel equally as good in the hand in terms of quality. I don't have any real complaints holding this in the hand. The holes don't bother me or change my impression of just feeling it. But if you do value not having holes in your mouse, then I guess the DeathAdder V3 Pro is probably going to be for you, because the Xtrfy M4 wireless also features holes in the mouse. But at this point, I am glad that Razer did decide to come out with this mouse, but now I just want to see a mini version. I want to see a smaller version of this DeathAdder shape, because nowadays I definitely find myself gravitating toward the X-Lite V2 Mini just because it's a little bit smaller, and I feel much better about throwing it around as far as gaming with, and I can just hit a little bit more consistent shots with this smaller and also lighter gaming mouse. And to be quite frank with you guys, this is one of the best-selling gaming mice of all time. I think it really does deserve a miniature version of this mouse. Cut the weight a little bit down to about 55 grams to make it extremely competitive, and I think that a mini version of this mouse would honestly be a slam dunk. But if you guys are interested in picking up this mouse, I will have a link in the description below. But I want to thank you guys again for watching Too Much Tech. Let me know if you guys have any comments about the DeathAdder V3 Pro in the comment section below, or feel free to hit me up on Twitter or join our Discord. But thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you in the next video.